washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items amadi makal khudingmakki home appliances idamak hoina waningai leitre. Kaisampat Konjeng Hazari Leikai da leiba Mezo of Impalna ahongbo mamalda item khudingmakki up to 50% discount da offer pizari. Wedding set unalong matamdasu special oiba discount kaya su hamjari. Interest amatta yaudena 0% EMI loan gi kudong chabasu thamjari. Kudong chabasi mangan biraganu ngasi maklengsin biraku Mezo of Impal Kaisampat Konjeng Hazari Leikai.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Elite TV Open Debate in English. I'm your host, Utpala. Today being Monday, we will be conducting our open debate in English. Satyamev Jayate, truth alone triumphs, the motto of Indian Police Service. There are many roles and functions of the police, one of which is to uphold and enforce the law impartially and to protect life, liberty, property, human rights, and dignity of the members of the public. They are the protectors of law and order. Our topic for today's open debate is the use and misuse of power by police. Joining us tonight are our panelists, N.Ibungochoubi, Executive Editor, Manipur Mail. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate. Our next panelist is Robert Naorem, International Designer. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate. And our third panelist for tonight is Advocate Ngangom, Junior Luwang, Corporate Lawyer and Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Welcome to ELITETV Open Debate. Once again, a warm welcome to all our panelists. Let's begin our debate for tonight. So my first question is for Mr. N.Ibungochoubi. So what are the limits of police power? What are the provisions provided to a police for arresting a person? What is the proper procedure for arresting with or without a warrant? Shall I repeat?
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are, sir. Okay, Mr. N.Ibungochoubi, my question was for you. My question was, what are the limits of police power? What are the provisions that are provided to arrest any person with or without a warrant for the police? What are the limits they have?
Good evening, viewers. It is very interesting that the entire social structure of Manipur, we have been facing how policing or the law enforcing agencies in our own state having a very serious challenge in our own state in the last couple of decades. We have seen political turmoil, social turmoil, and one of the most important things that we need to remember or we need to recall is the law and order because of the proscribed insurgency movement, proscribed organizations working in Manipur. The entire social structure of Manipur, as we know, we have seen in the last couple of decades, I would not only say use or misuse, but I would add another adjective called abuse too, by the law enforcing agencies.
Absolutely. Right.
To keep peace in our own state.
Right.
I think we are trying to refer to a very, very specific event that was seen a couple of days ago, how a police inspector was involved in a very tragic incident of a goldsmith in Manipur.
Right.
I think it has become a very hot debate. It has become one of the most hair-raising events that we see, we read in our social media, in the main newspaper. We are trying to understand the entire force of police. People say that the law enforcing agencies, you see what happens in European countries, in the United States, how police personnel, they respond,
Yes.
they react
Right.
to different incidents. Now, we cannot bring police personnel from European countries or the developed nations. Our own police personnel are drawn from our own brethren, from our own background, from our own society. It also reflects the psyche of our own people, how we react, how we respond to difficult situations. As far as a journalist, we have been reporting excesses committed by security personnel.
Right.
The Armed Forces Special Power Act is very much a very prolonged debate as to how the security personnel can be empowered with certain impunity, which we define as unconstitutional in our own country. I think the very term that Manipur Police Service or Indian Administrative Service, we understand that they are supposed to provide service to the people of our own country. We provide security, we provide service. At the same time, I would also say that some of the excesses committed by some personnel we cannot generalize the entire police personnel. We also have friends and colleagues in the police who are also very helpful, who render services during very difficult times. And today is a world of quick news service. Today, every single person who has a smartphone, any single person who has a smartphone is a reporter today, is a journalist.
True.
And when my own office was burned down last year, my entire Manipur mail office was gutted by fire when the fire started. Within fractions of seconds, we saw the fire live from social media from different parts of the state and even from different parts of the country when it went viral. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have smartphones as journalists, it also acts as some kind of a deterrent in every action or reaction to what happens in our society today. If we have to recall what has been happening in the last couple of decades, yes, I think the new generation of police personnel, as I see today as a reporter, when we travel around, when we share our thoughts, the kind of social turmoil that has come down drastically in the last few years, I would say in the last 6-7 years, they have also changed the psyche, how to react, how to respond to our social issues, how they react to strikes, how they react to agitations. Yes, there are also certain incidents, there are also certain events where we are completely shocked, and they are not expected. Police officers are not expected to behave or respond in that particular manner. I think we need to change the psyche of the young people who wear uniform, who come to serve the people. I think yes, we need to change, and we also need to know that they come from our own social background. Anybody who dons a uniform today in Manipur, they also come from our own society. So how our society has groomed our own young people to address challenging issues. These are debates, these are issues which will be an ongoing process. I think the incidents that we saw in the last couple of decades of how say killings were daily, killings or murders, I would say 1 or 2 people dying every day. That was a very difficult situation. Now the times have changed. The situation has changed.
I'll just interrupt you there, Mr. N.Ibungochoubi. We were talking about the young men in uniform who are, of course, a part of the society. Do you think that they need some sort of a special training before they join the forces to make them aware? Would that help in any way? Would that deter some of, like, social media, of course, is one of the deterrent, as you mentioned. Do you think another thing would be, like, if they are given a sort of a training before they actually go into the field, would that help in any way? Do you think some such training should be taken up for such person, for the young force, men in uniform? Any
person, whether men or women in uniform, they in fact do undergo serious orientations, serious counselings, and in fact they are professionals.
Right.
As a common man, we have to understand that they are professionals, and professionals, from the professionals, we expect professionalism with little bit of a humanity. I think this is what we have to understand.
Right.
As a person who dons a uniform, we hope that we are being protected by them.
Right.
I think I should feel secure. I should feel secure when I see a man or women in uniform. It should not be otherwise. It should not be otherwise. And as you say, that orientations or regular counseling, I think it does happen within the organization. However, there are instances where we do not expect that to happen, and that happens. Those are tragic events from where they need to learn more as to how our men and women in uniform should respond to delicate situations and react during a time of crisis.
Okay, thank you so much for your views. Now I'll come to Robert Naorem. The next question, Robert, what do you think? Do you think, like we just mentioned about abuse of power? What do you think? Do you think that it is being abused, and if so, do you have any examples of misuse or abuse of power? Can you think of any recent incidents that may have happened apart from the goldsmith?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question, and I'm glad to be part of the discussion today. And with regard to this topic of abusive situations by the security forces, I do personally have that experience by myself. Plus, not only that, just today morning, one of the boy from the, he's just a acquaintance, Facebook friend from for myself. And what happened was he have written me a long message to me mentioning about the incident which recently happened yesterday about the security forces, which they are using the abusive words, and how they have not respected the third gender and this community. The way how they react to this kind of situation should be different. And I feel really bad, and today morning, and he was expecting that since I have been known by a few people and few sections of the society, they think that I would put up a word from my end. That's how he had put me that request to put up to the higher authority that this thing should not happen to any other people in the sections of the third gender or the LGBT community. So it is very important for them to respect people. I understand they should do their duty. No one denies, and we should accept also. We should also accept that if someone is during their duty, if they wanted to do a frisking or checking or whatever questions they wanted to ask, they have a complete right. But they should not cross someone's limit and undergone that identity respect should be maintained. That should be maintained, I guess. That is very important from the this sections of the people. And since when the checking or the security forces, when this happens, even myself sometimes in a situation they will use like abusive words, they used to use that, which is out of the professional ethics.
Absolutely.
I think that require a lot of I think they require a lot of counseling. Absolutely. And training with regards to what extent they should go beyond, and what extent they should not speak, and the limitations they should not cross about the privacy or the personal affairs with regards to that. I think that should be maintained. And I myself has faced a lot of problems sometimes. The security police were like drunk completely and without any reason, and they have asked us to stay for a while and ask a lot of questions which are not related with regards to the whatever the security duty. I feel that. So I think it is very important for them to respect the sections of the community and also, to help us and to make us feel secure. We should not feel that, if we are going a late night or if we're going out, we should not feel that, we might find our security forces and they would mentally torture us. That should not be there. I feel that, we should get protected by these people because they are there to protect us. Not, we should not scare of the police. We should, feel safe secure when we find police. That's what I feel that, and that's what I want to request to the, even the Home Department and the police authority that, to respect the sections of people and, do their duty with professionalism.
Absolutely. Thank you for your views. It's a very valid point that Robert just made regarding the feeling of security when police personnel are around and not be scared. Yes, it does happen that if somebody is out late, if they see policemen, they should be happy and they should feel secure that they are safe rather than feel insecure that they might be stopped and asked questions and they might be abused. So I hope that will change with time to come with counseling. Now, so we'll move on to Mr. Advocate Junior Luwang. Advocate Junior Luwang, what should the people be aware in case people are stopped for frisking and in case they are supposed to be arrested with or without a warrant, and in fact even a woman, if a woman is to be arrested, what are the things that they should know? What are the things that they can ask the police when they come for arresting the particular individual, be it at home or office or wherever they may be? What are the things that what are their rights that they should be aware of?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so basically both the criminal procedure court as well as the Supreme Court and High Courts of various states have laid down quite a good number of landmark judgments wherein the rights of the arrestee, people who are arrested, are to be protected or protected.
Right.
Now, starting from J.K. Basu's case till the recent judgment in 2021, the Supreme Court and the courts in India have always been protecting the rights of the people who are arrested. The first thing first, when I have to be arrested, I have to know as per the judgments and as per the provisions of the CRPC, I have a right to ask the police officer his identity, his designation first, and he is obliged to disclose his identity and his designation. One. Second, he also is supposed to let me know the charge or the offences of which I am arrested or going to be arrested. Second. Third, I have a right to tell the police or the law enforcement agency that I have a friend there, I have a relative there, and he should be informed of my arrest within 12 hours. The time prescribed by the statute and by the judgment is 12 hours.
Okay.
Fourth is that there should be a memo of arrest to be issued officially. Again, the timeline is 12 hours. It can be. I also signed it as a signatory, as a witness to it in the presence of 3 witnesses, and it's usually given to a relative or a friend of the person who is acquainted.
So, Advocate Luwang, is a memo and a warrant the same thing, or are they different?
No, warrant is different. Warrant is basically warrant of arrest. It usually comes from a court of law. Memo of arrest is basically issued by the police, by the arresting officer.
That will be given to the relative.
A arrest B, when A arrests B, and then within 12 hours, see, he may not immediately arrest him. He may question him. He may take him to the police station and see whether there is any cognizable offence or non-cognizable offence, whatever it is. See whether there is something interesting or something which is quite a material of interest to police. And accordingly, the police takes a decision whether to take the person into custody or not. If the police takes a decision to take the person into custody, then he is arrested, and then all the formalities of arrest will follow. Now, then there is a memo of arrest. Then under Article 22 of the Indian Constitution, he has a right to be produced. He cannot be detained in a police station for more than 24 hours.
Okay.
He has to be produced before a magistrate within 24 hours, excluding the time which is required for travelling from the police station to the court. Now, and second, he also has a right to be told, or he has a right to tell the police that I want to speak to my lawyer.
Okay.
He can,
Within the 24 hours.
He has a right to be legally aided. Now, these are the basic rights which are usually available to say a person who is arrested.
One more question here,
Course,
Advocate Luwang.
Yeah.
So within this
Yeah.
24 hours that he's detained in custody,
Yes.
can the police torture him without proving his...
No, see, the whole concept of torture we have basically borrowed it from some Hollywood movies where, the prisoners of war are shown as, it's beaten up by Russians and all that. That's the very Hollywood concept. There's a concept of interrogation, but there is no concept of interrogation with force. Of course, there's a concept of arrest with some amount of reasonable force, but that reasonable force will be proportionate to the kind of danger which the arrestee is posing to the police. So that's a very dicey thing. It's a very subjective concept as how much of force has to be used for arresting a person, for taking him into custody. Now, these are basically some of the fundamental rights which are available to a arrestee. Now, as far as the woman is concerned, a woman cannot be arrested after a nightfall and before daybreak.
Is there any particular time for that?
Yeah, she cannot be arrested unless and until the crime of which she is accused of is such that she needs to be taken into custody even during night time, for which a specific permission is required from the magistrate, from the judicial officer. The police has to go and then take a particular warrant or an order from the magistrate, and then only she can be arrested. Now that's one part of it. Second is that she has a right she has to be arrested by a woman police officer, or if by a male officer and then a woman police officer has to be there. Third is that the general rule of reasonable force for arresting a particular person doesn't apply to a woman vis-a-vis a male police officer. Only a female police officer may use a reasonable force to take the woman arrestee into custody. Third, she also, as much as the male arrestees are entitled to, she also has a right to be examined, medically examined, but not by a male doctor but a female doctor. So these are the differences between male arrestees and female arrestees.
So, one more question. Is there any provision for the third gender for the arrest of a...
So now, I don't see any provision in any of the say judgments which are here. But I suppose the jurisprudence will slowly and gradually develop. Just as we see separate washrooms now for the third gender.
Yes.
I think surely it will come. But in my opinion, what applies to women, I mean, as far as the physical part is concerned, should apply to the third gender. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. Now, let me just develop the idea of how much of, say, how do we come up with this concept of police access? Now, there is a general or a United Nations guideline as to how much of, say, to what extent the law enforcement agency can go for executing arrests of people who are suspicious of who are suspected to have committed crimes. But the global principle or the global say you can say standard is called the UN Basic Principles on Use of Force and the Firearms by Law Enforcement Officials, 1990. So this is where they started from. I mean, the United Nations has endeavored to lay down some principles for arresting people at the global level. But again, this is the UN agreement or UN standard, benchmark which has been there until 1990. Now, how do we define police access? Amnesty International in 1990 has very vaguely defined police access as some kind of a abuse of human rights of any person. So that's a very, very general concept. Now, I think I will need to deal with your first question,
Right.
a little more specifically from the point of view of the case laws, which have been passed on by the Honorable Supreme Court. I'll just name 3 judgments. One is the landmark judgment of D.K. Basu, which is in 1997. D.K. Basu, in fact, judgment has laid down the basic jurisprudence and the principles of memo of arrest, right to be represented through a legal counsel. Then we have inspection memo, and then the court also have also come up with the police stations to come up with every state district headquarters, this and that. Then there is a diary entry concept. There is a medical checkup concept, identification of police arresting and interrogating, this and that. So this is D.K. Basu, and is considered as one of the important judgments or landmark judgments of the Supreme Court. Now another one which is very, very recent is Parambir Singh Saini versus Balaji Singh and others. This is very, very important from the point of view of addressing the possible abuse or the actual abuse by law enforcement agency. This is Justice Naorem judgment, 2021. Now, what is said is that all police stations should have CCTVs.
Okay.
Okay. Not only in the interrogation room, but also in the lockup rooms,
Okay.
corridors, and exit entry, and on the rooms of all the police officers who are dealing with the interrogation of the accused, or whoever is there in the lockups. And the records of all these cameras, CCTV footage, has to be kept for at least 18 months.
Okay.
18 months. Now, this the same judgment also talks about a police complaint cell, where people can come up and then make complaints to police about possible abuse in the police station.
Okay.
It also has gone to the extent of saying that there also should be specific human rights courts.
Okay.
Okay, and those specific human rights courts will be basically dealing with custodial violence and custodial deaths. These are very specific recommendations or specific directions of the Supreme Court, but I really don't know to what extent the government of Manipur has conformed or has abided by these principles or the directions laid down. Now, let me just come to another disturbing. I'll just end my first round with this. See, we ourselves are a little double standard in how we deal with police access. Now, you must have seen young boys are not being beaten up, or they are made to jump around because they have not conformed to COVID.
Right. Yes.
Now, that itself is a police access. That itself is a police abuse. You can't touch somebody's body like that. I don't think even the Disaster Management Act or the Indian Penal Code or any kind of law in India, allow the police to do that kind of a physical abuse to our young boys and men. They can't do that. They can't. Touching a man's body or touching any person's body, that it's a huge crime. Now what our society does when it comes to COVID, and we take all kinds of sadistic pleasure, seeing all those young boys beaten up. Why? Because they have not conformed to COVID protection principles or the standards. That should be condemned first. Now, what I see is that in most of the social media posts and whatever comes up in YouTube, those videos, and the people really congratulate the police. Police should do this. Police is justified in doing this. Now, that police. The whole system of police access and abuse starts from there, and we laugh at it with a lot of sadistic pleasure. We to an extent we also have been quite cooperating with the police in committing the police access. That's a starting point. We should say no physical touch, nothing. That's not allowed. Now, when it comes to some custodial death issue or some kind of suspicious death, then we are very quick to jump to conclusions. Okay, this was a time the police came, arrested, then he died. Without not properly examining all the documentary and the digital evidence which is there, without even waiting for the post-mortem report.
Right.
So we ourselves are very, you can say, double standard when it comes to police access. So the first thing we should do is that no physical abuse, no physical touching. May it be not a traffic no offense, may it be a COVID offense, nothing. You can't touch anybody's body unless and until that physical force is required. A reasonable physical force is required when a case or when an offense is met out. The first the offense punishable with say maybe cognizable or maybe non-cognizable. When a person is resisting arrest, only then the police is justified in using police some kind of a force. But that too not very reasonable. But that too not very unreasonable. It's all over the world. You see the the case in America also. I think his name is George Flynn or something.
So, how would you? What would the definition of reasonable force be over here? Would it be like hitting with a lathi or a couple of slaps?
No, not slapping. I don't think slapping is required for arresting. I don't think so. If you see the Hollywood movies also, you don't see the police slapping, the arrestees. You don't see them. They just maybe they point a gun at the arrestee, or the person is arrested. Then he is made to raise his hand. So in America, when you drive, when the police comes, then you are supposed to show your hands, or you are supposed to make your hands visible because they are afraid of your hands because you can just pull up a gun because guns are available in America on free, almost on everywhere. So now what you do is you point a gun, the person will be made to raise his hand, handcuff him, and then put him inside. You don't see any slapping and anything like that, kicking anything like that. That happens only in places like Manipur, and we ourselves encourage this kind of violence. When it comes to COVID, traffic violence, and petty offences. Let me make it very, very clear that reasonable force is required only when a person to be arrested obstructs arrest. That's it. That's only for me. The police are not required to even interrogate people in the lockup room or in their custody with force. That's not the violence is not at all encouraged. Not at all. It's illegal. Okay. That's the difference we have. Yeah. So let me end my first round here.
Okay. Thank you so much for your views. My next question will be for Mr. N.Ibungochoubi. Well, you did mention about AFSPA. Going back to what you had said earlier, you mentioned that because of AFSPA, the security forces were able to commit a lot of abuses or misuses. So, how far? First of all, as Advocate Luwang just mentioned about CCTVs being present should be present in the police station, even the locker rooms. Are you aware of any such provisions that have been taken up in Manipur, or again, is it gone down with corruption, or and then there's also the question of police personnel being paid. Again, that comes into corruption. So how are we actually going ahead with what the rest of India is following, and what is being followed here in Manipur?
Primarily, what ails our society is the trend or the culture, the inherent culture of our own society, which leads to corruption.
Right.
Nobody is free from corruption in Manipur, irrespective of whether it is a police, civil administrations, politicians, or even at a different level. As I was mentioning the other day, that young people today need to come forward during the elections. This was something that I was repeatedly saying during my conversation, even during my deliberations, that during the elections, young people who have some dream in their lifetime, they should come out by saying that, please do not give us money, please do not send us, please do not woo us with wealth for the elections. The kind of money, the kind of wealth that is being seen during the elections, that reflects our society, whether our young people, as we say, our own electorates, we have not been able to conform ourselves as to how we will not be bought for a couple of thousands of rupees, and we keep quiet for 5 years. This is what we have been trying to say.
Yes.
what happens to police personnel in terms of law enforcement agencies or the Armed Forces Special Power Act that we have been debating for a long time? We had instances not only in Manipur but throughout the country when some areas are declared as disturbed area under this very act.
Right.
The very fact that one person who is affected by this act cannot file a case unless you get a prior permission from the Ministry of Home Affairs from central government. That is a long process for a common man, which is preventing or which is an obstacle. At the same time, the debate goes as to how our law enforcement agencies will be fighting the proscribed outfits who are heavily armed and they will not be in the position to counter. That was a debate as to how that has been happening in this very country, notwithstanding the fact that there had been excesses, there had been use, abuse and misuse of this very act. That is what we have seen in the past. And when it comes to policing in Manipur, we need to understand, we need to find out, we need to understand, as I was told by Jit in the later part of the evening that I need to take part in this conversation, I was looking at one of the photographs, which vividly constantly reminds me of policing in Manipur. There were two girls, I think from Tamfasana Girls Higher Secondary School. They were in the middle of a road and they were agitating. I do not exactly recall the cause for the agitation or the reason for the agitation. That picture was iconic. The picture was, in fact, very shocking as a father of a young daughter. Our two girls were sitting in the middle of a road and our own police personnel, our own brethren had to open that high velocity water from the firefighters or to chase out rioters. You know, I think everybody remembers that picture, how two young girls were sitting in the middle of a road and they had to use that water cannon to disperse those agitating girls from the middle of a road. I wish our own police personnel, ladies and gents who were police officers, they would have found some other means to drive those little girls from the main road or to pursue from the middle or road. They could have gone into a dialogue. They could have gone into a dialogue as to how, because these are little girls coming out from our neighborhood. From that perspective, I think there are very constant reminders as to how we need to re-educate, we need to orient our young people, men in uniform. I'm not saying that everybody would be the same. Now, those pictures of two girls or three little girls sitting in the middle of a road and our entire police force using the heavy high pressure water cannons to disperse, and I think that will be a telltale sign of, that would be a kind of a story that will be told for thousands of years as to how our police forces need to be human, need to be.
May I interrupt you here and something related to this? The action that they took of firing the water cannon or whatever. So, do you think that the call was taken by them, or do you think the order came from somebody superior to them?
As you know, handling a riot is a very, very difficult task for men in uniform. Anyone who can be violent, who can be pelting stones, and I am not generalizing, but many of our police personnel, they also had been seriously injured by our rioters or people who have been agitating.
Yes, it's both ways. Yes.
Particularly stone pelters, because once I was standing with the police personnel with their guards, I was with a helmet, I was with my press jacket, and I could see left and right many police personnel. They were bleeding from the face because of the stones pelted by many agitators. What I'm saying is, our police personnel are exposed to different situations. They might come into ambush from armed outfits, or they might come they might face stone pelting agitators, young people today. The issue is how professionally our men in uniform are trained to to tackle such tough situations. This is the key issue, and in fact, the times have changed. The different forms of agitations have changed, and Regarding the last incident Robert was saying, there was a rape case in Delhi a couple of years ago, and I was a part of the national committee chosen for Manipur to do the study in Delhi. Nobody has a right to rape anyone. Nobody has a right to abuse someone. But what happens is the reality that when you are exposed to a very vulnerable situation, say for example, in the middle of a night at 12 o'clock, in the middle of the highway, a girl coming out is not wise because she exposes herself at a very vulnerable position. In some way or the other, whatever we are seeing today, the kind of strong force, the kind of I wouldn't say animosity, the kind of a feeling that people have been expressing against the torture or the resentment or some kind of a behavior, demeanor towards the third gender. Third gender is a debate in our own society, in our own Manipuri society, as to how the third gender is being accepted by our own society. In fact, the third gender is not today's issue. It has been there since time immemorial. In fact, the transgender or the LGBTQ, whatever we understand, it is not today's phenomena. In fact, it has been for thousands of years. In the recent past, we have been seeing there's an upsurge of activists or right activists who want to claim a different platform, a similar platform. Say, I was visiting the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences yesterday, very recently. In fact, day before yesterday, I went on a tour being guided by the director of the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences, Professor Hantem Santa. Hantem Santa happens to be my childhood friend, my school classmate from Repok Boys, and he was taking me and some of our friends to a tour. I was so happy that at RIMS there is a particular toilet dedicated to the third gender. I was so happy. The kind of a sensitive thing that our professor Dr. Santa has taken up at RIMS. I think I'm not very sure whether there is a separate toilet for the third gender in our private institutions. But at the RIMS, I think that must be the first instance. I am not very sure if Robert is aware. There is a separate toilet being dedicated for the third gender. I was so happy to see that because we need to be sensitive. We need to be sensitive, and when we approach issues, when we are law enforcing agencies, we request very humbly that men and women in uniform, they need to be very sensitive. They need to be very human in the approach. It is just the will of God. It is just a physiological process, and how one defies the natural law of being male or female. They have chosen rightfully as a birthright. I think even the Supreme Court throughout the world, there is a trend. Of course, it is very difficult for us also sometimes to accept the fact that there is a third gender. In fact, when I started working with volunteers for SASO, I was working with the transgender. It was very difficult to accept. However, the fact is we have to accept the fact that there is a transgender community. There is a transgender
Maybe if you can
community.
look at it with a little more open-minded.
You have to accept this fact. You have to accept this fact. And of course, as I would always advise, as I would always suggest to the young people who are transgenders, I may not be right in saying that do not expose yourself to a vulnerable situation where you can be a victim, because you need to be smart not to be exposed to a vulnerable situation where you can be a victim. One should be intelligent enough not to be exposed to a vulnerable situation that others will take advantage of it. So what I'm saying, nobody has a right to cause harm or inflict pain to any gender. But the point that we should understand is that being a sensitive issue, and of course being a little different, one should not expose himself or herself to a vulnerable situation, and that could be a cause for a violation of human rights or humiliations or abuse or use of power. This is what we need to sensitize our young people who are transgenders also. They should feel secure, and they should not be exposed to a vulnerable situation where they could be victim of circumstances, which is of course very, very unruly or illegal.
Absolutely. I'll take the question to Robert Naorem from here in continuation to the third gender. Well, Robert, do you think that when any such incidents happen, does a transgender feel secure to go and file a complaint? And what are your views on what Mr. N.Ibungochoubi just said about not to expose to vulnerable situations? What would you like to say on that?
I would agree partially, but I'll not agree completely with regard to this. Since I'll tell is, it's just not about being vulnerable or, exposed to situations. It's about, being respect for a gender. See, I don't think so anyone from the community would come with a bikini or wearing that kind of clothes in the street and they will come that way.
Right.
But yes, even from the community also, they need to get, respect the people, the security forces which they are doing the service. So they should cooperate. If they are doing a checking or whatever, frisking, they should, cooperate with them, politely and, in a very respectful way, because even they are doing their duty. But on one side, when we see that 90% to 95%, when we see that most of the people who are frisking or doing a check at night or midnight time, usually generally they are almost drunk.
Okay,
that's the first point.
Right.
Second is they have very less respect with regards to the gender of this community.
Right.
So I think that should be considered much, since there is no much law, as sir already told also before, with regard to the transgender community. There is no such a law prescribed till yet. But when it comes to the situations like, if the person from our community, if they have to travel at midnight for urgent reason, or
I think we just lost connection with Robert. Okay, so we'll continue with Advocate Luwang. With the third gender, as I was talking to Robert about filing a complaint.
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. We have Robert back. Yes, I can hear you.
The line was cut.
Right, welcome
so
back.
With regards to the filing a complaint, I think most of the police personnel are not much cooperative with regards to the this community. So I think when they see the appearance or how they dress up, they feel like the kind of expression, the kind of cooperation they have given is quite less. But yes, I think I can see little change. There are also a lot of good people. There are also a lot of friends of my, from my side, who are working on the this forces. But the only thing is, I think as a whole, when they are being trained, they need to understand that, know that there are also sections of people in the society wherein they should get respected.
Absolutely.
When they see transgender, so obviously they will wear female clothes. They might go for a work or something else. But I think identity or respect should not be decided by the clothes a person has worn.
That's right.
So it's just not about the transgender community, it's about even female.
Absolutely.
It's someone's comfortability, if someone decide this is comfortable to me, and if that person wears it, and I think that should not be the point of reason or being a rape. We could not blame the reason for being raped should be on clothes. Same goes with even for the transgender community. It's not about the clothing, or it's about the way how they does makeup or how they being show up as an appearance. But it is important thing is how they break the law. If that person from any community, from our community, or if that person is from transgender or a gay or a lesbian, whatever, if they break the law, then they should be charged
accordingly
with the law, not against the law.
Yes,
it should not be against someone's sexual orientation, or it should not be someone's identity, or it should not be someone's personal way of dressing or personal way of speaking. So I think based on the law, whatever, if a person conducts a crime, or if a person go against the law, so I think they should fight, or they should being charged with the lawful power. It should not be against someone's personal identity or someone's ethics. So I believe completely that it's not about just being clothes or being the way how they present themselves. So one cannot be judged that way, and it should not be that way. If someone has to be respect a person, it doesn't matter how a person has been wear, or how a person has been speak, or what they eat, or what they drink. It's about respecting another human being, that is on the ground of humanity, plus on the ground of morality, and someone who is working on a force, which is a very disciplined job. We all think that it is very important for them to understand, to know ethics and rules of the society, to respect someone. They are there to protect the people of the society. They are not there to check on enforce something which is against the law to them, and use their own personal bias, which is come in the in between the duties. So I think it is very important for them to understand that what they have to do with the citizens of the state or the country. It's not just about going against the law and torturing someone, or using abusive word to the public, or going against the respect of the society.
So on that one question, do you think the transgender, like I had asked in the beginning, do you think they're comfortable? Would they be comfortable going and filing a report, or is that?
I think most of the people are not comfortable, and from these sections of society, as I said already, most of the people don't have the guts to go there and file a case, or speak up against the police, or a government, or the higher authority, because they are already a weaker section in the society already, and their voice has been less heard. Only just recently, even it's been included in the Election Commission of India. Being a transgender have a voting rights as a third section of the society. So even if it is given the section of society to right to vote as a third gender, then I think they should be given an equal right for the section of people in the society. So do you think, and as from this community, most of the people, if they have to go and file a case against the police, or put a FIR or on any of the higher authority, I don't think so. 95% would not able to do it and come and fight for it.
So they're just going to go with they'll just go on social media and talk about it, and but
that's
anyway,
the only way they could able to speak. That also even only for the few people, but not for most of the
majority.
People. They might
a lot of people don't report even. They don't even speak up.
They might scared to speak up in front of the people, everyone, because in turn, they might get harmed, or they might be charged. So, they feel insecure about it. So most of the people would not even speak up about the incident happened to them.
So in case of frisking, do you think the transgender community would be more comfortable in case of a physical search? Would they be comfortable with a man searching, or
no, that would not be completely comfortable at all. If it's frisking happens with physically checking a person, then I don't think so. Being checked by a male police officer would not be completely comfortable from this community. I believe that that would not be comfortable to them.
Okay, thank you for your views, Robert. I'll just go back to Advocate Luwang. Advocate, we just spoke to Robert about the filing a report. Do you think that can a police refuse to file a complaint saying that it's not in my jurisdiction, or just because he doesn't want to take a complaint? Or what as a citizen, what can you do in case you come across a nuisance or any kind of a problem, and the only way is to complain to the police? Can they refuse a complaint?
Yeah, I will address the issue from a general perspective. Because slowly the debate is drifting to transgender rights rather than police access. So I will address it from the subject point of view. Because subject is
this is a common question. Like, can anybody go and stop?
So I'll address it in the general context. Now, suppose if somebody has problem with the police, or somebody has to make a complaint, if the police say no, for various reasons, one reason could be that he doesn't have the jurisdiction. Other reason could be that no criminal offence has been made out, or whatever, but the complainant feels that there is actually an offence made out, and he
Okay.
has a right to complain. Now, of course, the police does it, and I have also come across in my own experience. Where I represent clients here and there. It happens that the police says, no, we can't take your complaint. Now, in that case, you have a remedy of approaching the competent magistrate directly,
Okay.
and filing a complaint with the magistrate.
Okay.
The magistrate, the remedy is to go to the magistrate and have a warrant issued or an order issued by them. But that's again, that's a little complicated.
Okay.
But for somebody like a common person, maybe anybody, it will be difficult, to actually make a complaint, because that's not a normal thing. The normal thing is to go to police station and then file a FIR. So what the police usually do is that because they want to make money, they will entertain your complaint, but they will not convert into a FIR, the first information report. So they will contact the other party, call the other party to the police station, maybe reprimand them here and there, and then consult them, and then maybe they make some money in between.
Okay.
So the issue is resolved. You are happy, and he is happy, because he gets out of the police FIR and all the legal issues by bribing the police to an extent. So that's what people. The first attempt by the police is to keep the complaint pending without converting to a FIR. Call the other party, try to make some money by giving some freebies here and there, resolve the issue. So that's the first thing. Now, if you actually feel that an action has to be taken by the police, a legal action, then obviously your remedy, as I said, is to go to the competent magistrate and file a complaint, and they will issue the. Now, coming to the broader issue, because the last some minutes have been about the discrimination method of the third gender. I will address it from a general perspective. See, this kind of police, abuse or police humiliation, harassment is not. It's all across genders. I mean, it happens to women, it happens to men. It happens to women for obvious reasons. It happens to men because men are also vulnerable in the sense that we are a challenge for the police because we belong to the same gender, and then they don't want to see young guys and boys roaming around at night. If they are seen roaming around, then they think some of them, I will not generalize it. Some of them have the sadistic pleasure of lining them up and then demand them, contact their parents and then make money. So that's the general trend which I see in Manipur. So any kind of such possible abuse or actual abuse taking place, this is something which we see quite normally, although it has decreased quite a lot because the law and order situation has to an extent improved in Manipur. In the 80s and 90s it was worse because in the name of maintaining law and order, there was this a lot of physical checking, stopping abuse, and then if they want to harass you, they can really harass you by planting this and that with you, on a physical body, maybe at your home, office, whatever. That was something that was going on, but I believe that it is really going down. But the fact of the matter is that it's still there. Now, they can always, as I said, that since the police has become a party to the offence, because they are the offender in that case. So how do you complain to the police against the policeman?
Right.
So the best way is to tackle it from by approaching a magistrate, a competent magistrate of the particular jurisdiction, or maybe you can even write to the Human Rights Commission.
Okay. Human Rights, yeah.
They will take it up. So all this, gender sensitization, police bias, police prejudice, police harassment have to be seen at a broader perspective, and maybe there is a cell called I think State Legal Aid Cell attached to the Manipur High Court, and it's important for such bodies to educate and to sensitize the general public about what can be done, what cannot be done, what are the procedures which the police have to follow in arresting a person, and in case of any non-conformity of any such prescribed procedure, what are the rights available to you, what are the forums which you can approach. So this is something which such legal aid centers can do at a speed, so that people know what can be done, what can be done. Now coming to a little more current issue, or rather should I say, kind of police access which we usually see. I see it from two different perspectives. Police access or police harassment, which is basically perpetuated by the political establishment. I'll separately deal with it. Another is the police abuse or the police harassment, which they do on their own for various reasons. Now, if you see the instances of Wangkemsa, and another is, I think, Irendro. Sometimes the political establishment also is ill-advised, by whatever legal advices they have. In fact, when it comes to such serious issues of sedition or whatever, if they want to put somebody or charge somebody under the National Security Act,
Right.
The better option for the political establishment, for the government, is to take some kind of a mature or a professional legal opinion from a high-profile legal person. Maybe an additional Solicitor General, not Advocate General, Solicitor General from Delhi, or some good legal professional, as to whether charge under sedition or under the NSA or under the schedule of offence is met out or not. Then only you should want to take action. Otherwise, one might end up cutting sorry figures,
Right.
just as we have seen recently. So that's so when the political establishment takes a very I can say a hurried decision on certain issues. Ultimately it comes to the police, because the police has to execute it. So ultimately, it is the police who is to go on arrest, who is to charge the particular individual. Although the opinion might not be of the police has not done using its own discretion, because direction has come from somewhere else.
Right.
But again, it's the police who is to bear the brunt. So that's one part of it. So it's not that we can always blame the police all the time.
Right.
Sometimes they also act under instructions. And for this to avoid this kind of unwelcome situation, is very important for mature legal professionals to come in the picture for a mature advice to the government. That's one. Second is the police doing it purposely on their own, because they want to do it for different reasons. As one of the panelists has said,
personal
that
reasons,
they spend a lot of money. Usually the policemen spend a lot of money in their own recruitment. So they try to recover those money by making up cases and by slipping cases for no reason whatsoever on other people. So that's something which has to be tackled by our own CSOs and the civil society. We have seen it, and I have heard I have heard it firsthand, right from the mouths of people who have actually suffered, or who are on the who have felt the brunt of such police excesses. I also have heard this kind of a I have also seen this kind of a scenario from the law enforcement point of view, because I also being a lawyer, I have represented both sides. So now what is to be done is that it is for our CSOs. The third part is our CSOs and civil society. If we see our Manipuri society, of course our CSOs have done a commendable job in our social restructuring, in preserving our heritage, our values, our folklore. They have put our state integrity quite a lot. But what I also want to convey to the civil society is that it's a high time to take mature decision on very important issues, instead of sensitizing matters out of the turn without properly examining all the evidence which are there on record. See what I can also quote examples of Devishna's case. Why was it that our CSOs were suspecting, or were not having enough trust in the forensic reports, postmortem reports? 2 reports were conducted. Still somewhere it has to end. And somewhere we have to wait for the most important document to be generated before we take a view on any issue. Even in the recent case also, the now case, God forbid, it's a really sad situation. But I think somehow we have to stop some kind of a major trial until and unless the postmortem report is out. Because postmortem report is the Bible. From the postmortem report we come to know what actually is the cause of death. Of course, it's very disturbing to see those marks on his body. It must have been sustained during a police intervention. That's my personal opinion. But to accuse somebody of murder, to accuse somebody of putting somebody to death, you have to wait for the postmortem report. I mean, it's not the right thing to do for a lawyer or for anybody to come out on television channels and accuse somebody of direct murder, okay, without seeing the postmortem report. So the idea is that things would have transpired the way we have thought, or it might be otherwise also. What is important is for our CSO civil society to take very mature decisions on such issues of police excesses and the so-called custodial deaths. As I said somewhere in the beginning, we ourselves are very double standard. We encourage our own policemen to beat our own people when it comes to trivial matters like COVID COVID protocol, non-conformity, petty traffic. So let's be consistent ourselves. That no physical force on anybody from today, no physical force on anybody for any reason, unless and until it is allowed by law. And as I have explained, that force is allowed to be used only to the extent of taking a person into custody, and the person who is to be arrested is resisting it. That's the standard, the benchmark we should adopt. No, I mean, violence in any form, we should say no.
So it's not acceptable. They should be aware
unacceptable,
of.
unacceptable. Yes. And our society should be double standard. If it is no to violence for non-conformity to COVID protocol or even traffic violation, we start there, and if we start saying no from there. Basically, what is happening is that we have inherited some kind of a police state mindset, from the 80s, 90s, where armed forces people all over place, and then people were getting arrested, people were getting killed, so-called fake encounters. It was a fact.
Yes, that's fear psychosis in the minds of people.
So the police also has suddenly found themselves completely diminished in terms of the role, because at one point of time, those policemen who were basically frisking people, taking people into custody, or maybe sometimes harassing, killing them, harming them. Suddenly they found their role to be completely diminished.
Okay.
And that's one part of it. And secondly, the youngsters who have seen those kind of atrocities at one point of time, and who had hoped to become a policeman in the hope that they would do similar things, and boss around and then make money here and there, suddenly they also find themselves at a very diminished role. So that explains some kind of a, what should I say, frustration or demoralization on their part. Yeah.
One more, my last question for tonight, Advocate Luwang. This is pertaining to the corruption and the opinion you had about them spending money to get into the job, to get the job, and also we are aware of police personnel going and collecting money from shop owners, of street vendors. How can we stop that? Is there any way that they can refuse that money? Because obviously there are going to be consequences for that. If they refuse, they're going to have to face it.
The trend is not only confined to the police force. I think it's all across the service sector, the government service sector in Manipur. Because if you have to, I mean, whether people might deny it otherwise, but I am told that, and I have seen examples also, that at a higher level, people being recruited with no money. I have seen my own relatives. I mean, our society also changing, but by and large, it's money for job.
What about the vendors?
I'll come to that. So that's a reality. A constable or an SI or a SI, whatever. Most of them they get recruited by paying money, maybe lakhs, maybe 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, whatever. So what they do is that, and that's usually they're on their own, not usually their own saving. It's not that they pull out that amount of money from the bank account and then pay to the corrupt officials. Most of the time, I don't think that's the case. They either sell off their, their paddy field or mortgage them, or they mortgage their own gold ornaments. So somebody was telling me that, in fact, he told me in a very cynical sense that what is the starting point for police corruption? That it's usually the policeman who comes out, who wakes up early in the morning, hoping for a good day, and suddenly he gets a call from his mother, who is in the Farooq village, telling him that N.Ibungochoubi, came to our house early in the morning asking for money, which we spent on getting a job. So then he got all charged up right in the morning. Now I have to make up this money. I have to recover this money. So how do he recovers? And as you said rightly, he goes to the street vendors and he does whatever he wants to do. At one point of time, he even, when insurgency was at its peak, they even went to the extent of blackmailing people and planting bombs, planting this and that, and then getting that kind of money. But it's all about the extent to which the armed forces have gone. I mean, to harass people. If you ask me whether it still exists, it must be existing, but at a little lower level, at a little smaller extent. Okay. So that's and how do we stop it? We stop it by stopping corruption. Unless until people get recruited, through corruption, they will always continue to be. There has to be a way to recover whatever they have to spend. They have spent. So it applies not only to the service guys. It also even applies to the politicians. Why the politicians are corrupt? They become MPs, they become MLAs, they become ministers, and they indulge in all kinds of things. Because we allow them to be corrupt. Because they have corrupted us. They have paid money to us. Now they are not angels from the sky, who have just fallen down. They have to recover what they have spent on us. So we are allowing them to be corrupt. We are allowing them to doot us, once they occupy high positions. That's my take on that.
Thank you so much for your views again, Advocate Luwang. I beg your pardon, Advocate Luwang. So viewers, we should be aware of what's happening. You should be aware of your rights to stop police brutality or misuse of power. So please make yourselves aware of what is right and what is wrong. And also sensitization. What we can take away from this debate, open debate today, is that the police personnel have to be sensitized, and we as the public should be aware of our rights. I would like to thank our panelists for tonight. Mr. N.Ibungochoubi, thank you for your time. Robert Naorem, thank you so much for your time. And Advocate Luwang, thank you so much for your time. And thank you viewers for watching our show. That's all for today. Stay safe and have a great night.
Washing machine, fridge, smart TV, air conditioner, kitchen items, amadi makal khudingmakki home appliances idamang hoina waningai leitre. Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai Dalaiba, Mezo of Impalna, ahongbo mamalda, item khudingmakki up to 50% discount that offer tizari. Wedding set unalong matamdasu is special oiba discount kayasu hanjari. Interest amatta yawdena 0% EMI loan gi kudong sabasu thanjari. Kudong sabasi makan biraganu ngasi maklengsin birahu Mezo of Impal, Kaisampat Kunchen Hazari Lekai.